Hey everybody, it's TMD and welcome to the show. Today we're going to be discussing Mick Mariner's problem with his Mariner getting hot. Dave732 writes in and said he's got a friend with a 2000 Merc EFI. D. Matlock, when I trim my motor, my tack jumps. Let's see. Bob Gid writes in and asks, motor revs but won't pull. I'm assuming won't accelerate. T-gun, when shifting, there is a grinding noise. So let's see, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. TMD's fast 5. So let's get through these as quick as we can. My Mariner 115 seems to get hot. The telltale is pushing out, but it seems to be hot at high speed. All right, so we've got a couple things that happen here. The thermostat controls the temperature at low speed, which would run around the 140 mark. So that's probably not going to be it because he is mentioning high speed. We could have a weak water pump where the vanes have gotten weak over time so that they're too soft. We could have wearing in the plate or in the housing itself. We could have an obstruction, still allowing, again, the water to get through the telltale. But most likely, I would probably lean a little bit more towards doing the water pump first and then even take maybe the poppet valve off, check for debris in there and whatnot. And if everything's okay, put it back together, retest the engine, and hopefully send him on his way with an engine that's functioning properly. Dave732, this is my friend's problem, a 2000 Merc EFI. The impeller cap slightly melted to where on the top of the water pump cover. I told him to buy a new pump kit. What do you think? Anytime we see melting on the water pump housing itself, it's inexpensive and the right thing to do. Replace the pump completely. It's not expensive and it's easy to do, and it also gives us a very good starting point for the following years of maintenance, right? So we can go another, say, 1 or 2 years or 3 years or whatever you decide based on your area. If you're in sandy area, you're going to want to do it more often. If you're in fresh water and every once in a while you might pick up some minor weeds, the pump's going to last, right? Watch the telltale, look at those types of things, make sure that the water comes out fairly soon when you start the engine. But when it comes to melted components of a water pump, replace it. D. Matlock, when I trim my motor, my tack jumps up and down. Do I have any ideas? I do. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to check the charging system with a voltmeter to make sure that you are maintaining proper voltage of around 13 to 14 volts with the engine running. The next thing we'll do, or actually what we should have done first, is check our battery connections to make sure that they're good and tight. Go up behind the dash, make sure that those are tight, then address actually, all of those would be easy in the first things you could do, except one requires the engine running. But the steps I would do would tighten all the connections, run the engine, check the voltages. If those are all sound and work well, I'd probably look a little bit more into the trim motor, because basically what's happening is when we hit the trim motor, when we activate the trim motor, we take amperage away from the charging system, which can affect other gauges if there's a weakness somewhere. And the gauge jump, the tack jumping up and down is the symptoms of that problem. Bob Gid wrote in, and motor revs but won't pull. So what I'm assuming is happening is he puts it into gear, he revs it up, the engine makes a bunch of noise, but he's actually going nowhere. So we could have a spun hub, we could have a broken shear pin, we could have an inefficient prop on the boat, we could have a long shaft engine on a short shaft boat, we could have a short shaft engine on a long shaft boat, we could have a number of issues that are happening here. So this would be one of those times where I would say there's a lot of things that come into play. And let's pull that prop off first and check that. If those are okay and we've decided that it's the right size engine, it's the right boat, or it's been a boat that's been used for a period of time, and then this is a symptom that just showed up, I'm going to have them pop out those gear oil screws and make sure that there's no debris. If there is debris, there's a mechanical failure on the inside. T-Gun says, when shifting, there's a grinding noise. T-Gun, I'm going to say that that's 100% normal when you're shifting, if you're shifting slow. Okay? What we want to do is we want to snap that shifter into place really quick to avoid any grinding. If you snap it into place and there's still a grinding noise, there's probably going to be an adjustment that needs to happen somewhere. If this is a new problem that just surfaced, we're going to be replacing parts. We're either going to be replacing parts in the shifter or we're going to be doing the cables because they don't just suddenly come out of alignment. And that's it today, folks. That's my TMD and his Fast 5. I think that was 5. Mick Mariner, Dave 732, D Matlock, Bob Gitt, and T Gunn. There we go. All right, guys, look for more of these. I'll hopefully be doing this quite often. And start looking for a live show. I've hinted at it a little bit on Facebook and YouTube. I'm thinking I might start getting into that. So those will be fielding live questions from people. What I'll do is I will set a date that I'll be doing it and a time. You guys just need to show up. You got your questions, log on either the Facebook app that I might be using or the YouTube app and fire away through chat. And thanks, guys. Keep watching. And remember, follow and subscribe.